Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm Brandon, and this is the What It Really Be Like podcast. I started this podcast because there's a lot of people out there with interesting jobs or life experiences that I want to know more about. We'll go deep with people and their origin story, what they do or what they did, the good and the bad, everything in between, and maybe helpful stuff for you and I. If you have an interesting job or life experience, or you know someone who does and they want to be on the podcast, please reach out to me. Give me a shout. Contact information is in the description. Just leave me a blurb about who you are and why you want to be on the pod, and we'll go from there. This very first episode is with my friend and successful real estate agent, Michael Coxen. He's going to tell you why he got into the business. He's going to tell you what he loves about it, what he hates about it. There's going to be some hilarious stories, some heartwarming stories, and he'll give tips and advice on people that may be looking to buy or sell a home, or people that are looking to get into the industry as a professional. At the end of the day, you're going to see he's a great guy with a lot to share. If you have bought or are looking to buy a home, which is most of us, this episode is for you. You're going to love it. And now I give you Mr. Michael Coxen. Michael.
What's up, Brandon?
Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So you're a real estate agent here in Las Vegas.
Yep.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this about 12 years now.
Amazing.
Yes, sir.
So there's a lot of different facets, a lot of different roles that agents can play in the industry. Can you kind of break down what those are and where you fit in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a real estate agent in general is its own business. That's what everyone has to think about first. And every business relies on sales first and foremost. Sales are the lifeline of any business. But as a real estate agent, in addition to that, you're doing your own marketing, you're doing your own social media, you're doing your own operations, your own accounting. You name it, you're in charge. And that is in the beginning. So you got to build a foundation so you can grow that business, and where you can potentially start hiring and growing and outsourcing that.
So you wear a lot of hats.
You wear every hat.
Every hat, that's right.
Yes.
So, and then you do residential sales.
Yes, I do residential and commercial, about 80% residential.
Okay.
Yep.
There's also a whole property management side to it, right?
Yeah.
Are you involved in that at all, or can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so property management is a totally separate permit from a real estate license. So anyone is able to obtain one. I personally chose not to. I do personally manage my own properties, which you're allowed to do without a permit, but I don't do that side of the business. It's a whole other business for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to Michael right before you got into real estate.
Yeah.
Who were you at that time, and what kind of sparked you into getting into this?
Yeah, it's funny. It actually goes back to, I'd say, high school. My father actually was a police officer, but he had a
Mine
side
too.
business.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know, that's right. I remember that. And your dad also, when he retired, was security guard in Ala Moana Mall in Hawaii.
That's right.
I always remember that.
Waikiki, baby.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. I think of him every time I go. But anyhow, so yeah, my father he always had a side business, and so he kind of taught me entrepreneurship. That was the initial seed that got me into real estate, and I just kind of had an interest in money, the idea of money, making money. In high school, instead of reading what I was supposed to be reading, like Shakespeare, I chose to read like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, classic.
Susie Orman was the beginning one for me, just about like how to budget and control money. And then I got into productivity books, and I kind of tied them all together and realized real estate was a great way to be an independent business owner without having to necessarily grow a corporation, but to be in business. So that was kind of the first interest I took in the real estate industry. And then I love the idea of investing in real estate and kind of building wealth through, passive income. Yeah. And I use that term lightly because real estate is far from passive.
Right. Yeah. You're always managing this or that, right?
There's always something.
So what did you know about it? What was appealing to you?
It was definitely the first thing is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
That was how I learned that your money can make money for you.
Yeah.
And that led to, I knew I always wanted to invest in real estate, and the way to get there and the way to learn, I thought, was through selling it. So that was the first thing that got me into sales.
Because I think a lot of people, they look at it as like, oh, I can make my own hours, I can make my own way in it kind of thing. Because there's a lot of seems like there's a lot of freedom and creativity.
Sure. It's a double-edged sword. And, I have a team now and hiring agents. I teach them, that's a lot of people love to say, oh, I get to make my own hours. But that's the quickest way to fail in this business, is to think that you're free, because you're actually not. As I mentioned earlier, you have to do 8 jobs. You're running a business by yourself. You're not free. You can make your own hours, but you're not going to make as much money. It's really a business that what you put into it is what you get out of it. And the beautiful thing about real estate is we don't need to reinvent the wheel. The most successful agents in the world, all the information's out there about what they did and how they did it. And the idea is not to be cute and try to do something flashy or trendy and just put your nose to the grindstone and repeat the process. So yeah, sure, you set your own hours, but you need to work 60 to 80 hours in order to be successful.
And a lot of times, from what I've heard, clients kind of set your hours too, because you're in some ways you're at their behest of like when they want to do things, right?
Sure. You're a Niners fan, I think?
Packers.
How
dare you?
I'm so sorry. I'm a Jets fan, so who cares? We're never in the playoffs, but this will air after. But championship
Aaron
weekend
might go there. Apparently, that's the rumor lately.
That would be great.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. But for example, championship weekend in the NFL is coming up, and I had plans to spend it with my buddies. And I get a call off of Zillow for a brand new client, haven't met him before, wants to see a house in the middle of the game. So I was free to say no, but that means I don't get a paycheck potentially.
Yeah.
So
trade-offs.
Yeah, I work 7 days a week. I don't know what days those are going to be.
Yeah. Okay. What is the day-to-day like for you and for the agent in general?
Sure. I mean, well, everyone's different. I believe in calendar blocking. You have to make time for your most important tasks. So I get 8 hours of sleep a day. So I'm not a morning person. I get my sleep. I wake up refreshed. I do my morning routine, which typically involves drinking healthy juice, something to get me started physically, drinking water, having some moment in meditation, having some moment to read, and basically just take me time, personal time for about an hour every single day, 7 days a week. Phones on, do not disturb. No one can get to me first thing in the morning. That's by design. So I create a foundation for my day. I then prioritize my tasks first, what I want to achieve that day, if I hadn't done it the night before, and then I'll check my phone. Because I like to say email is the death of the real estate agent, because we get a lot of emails. There's a lot of things flashing at us, text messages, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. My phone is all constantly blowing up with messages, some significant, some insignificant. So I make sure that I filter that out early on in the day. I do every single day, typically in the afternoon for me, it's called an hour of power. I learned that from real estate coaches, where I take an hour to prospect new business and follow up with leads. It's because, as I mentioned earlier, sales are the lifeline of any company. And if you're focused on anything else but sales, then you're not going to be in business for long. So I make sure every day. It's a constant
wheel that has to be turning.
Yeah, we call it a funnel. Fill the funnel, and that's how sales come out at the end. As long as you keep the top full, it'll come out the bottom. A lot of agents get caught up, what we say, like babysitting a transaction. So if you get one transaction, a lot of agents will just focus 40 hours a week on just making sure nothing goes wrong and kind of obsessing over it, and then they close the deal and they have no other deals in the pipeline.
Like, now what? Yeah.
It's a very common mistake. So I believe in systems, and I've been fortunate enough to have the ability to hire out transaction coordinators, and I rely on my inspectors, my lenders I trust to do their job during an escrow, my title and escrow officers, and so I can focus, and I don't abandon my escrow, but I focus on trying to get another one. So that's a huge part of my day, is that hour of power, and then those are the guarantees. And then any given day, I could have a listing appointment, I could have a buyer presentation, I could be showing homes, writing offers, responding to issues in escrow. But calendar block is the number one thing I recommend any real estate agent does.
Yeah. And so there's consistencies day to day, but it sounds like there's also just new stuff. You're meeting new people constantly. Yeah. Things just come up that you have to fix or deal with.
Absolutely. You have to be very flexible in this business. You can't have a fixed mindset. You need a growth mindset. You need to be able to anticipate, but also be willing to just change your day at any given moment. But don't let somebody else dictate what's important in your day.
I remember you told me a while ago that, like, a certain time at night, do not disturb.
Yep.
That's it. I can't be bothered anymore because people could be texting you 11, 12
Yeah.
at night. It's like,
Oh, and they do.
Yeah.
2 a.m.
yeah,
I mean, I get messages 24/7.
wow.
And I choose when
You're like,
I
what are you doing
respond
at
to them.
3:30 in the morning, dude? Like,
Looking
get
at
off
Zillow.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's an addiction, man.
Yeah.
You know, I bet a lot of people watching this and listening to this right now spend a few hours a week on Zillow.
I saw someone recently said there should be a comment section on Zillow listings. Like that would just be, I feel like, just gold mine of people just like commenting on things.
As an agent, I don't want to see that.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah, I don't want to hear the public's opinion on my listings. And these are people's homes, so you know, as much as they're private and for sale,
true.
we want to protect some of their privacy.
I didn't think
and
about that. Like, what if
integrity.
it's your home and you're like, I actually love that window. Like, why are
Yeah.
people talking so much shit about it?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lid for every pot, I like to say. So, I mean, you might find something ugly and somebody might find it pretty, or somebody sees it as an opportunity to renovate.
Yeah, that's true. The eye of the beholder.
It's funny. I never heard that before, but I think that's a terrible idea. Public opinion doesn't need to be heard in every platform.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Go to Reddit.
Yeah, it's also funny because, like, I mean, everyone has their, like, the homes that are way out of their budget. And then they're like watching it, and then it gets sold. And they're like, "Oh man!" It's like, dude, you were never, that was
I
way out
wanted
of
that.
reach. Like, there's no way. You know?
Yeah, I'm a Zillow Premier agent, so I advertise with Zillow, and I get leads through there. And yeah, sometimes I get those buyers that are looking at their someday home.
What do you tell those people? I'm curious. Like, how do you?
So it depends. So everybody, I believe that people are genuinely have good intentions.
Sure.
So I mean, the first one's
Most
always
people.
free, right? So I mean, if somebody reaches out to me totally cold to look at a property, I don't stress them about pre-qualifying or making them feel in any way uncomfortable financially about the property, whether it's 200,000 or 2 million or 20 million. I treat everybody the same on that first phone call and assume they are legitimate. In a higher range home, you're not getting inside of it without a pre-qualification, and that's for good reason.
If it's got a gate, like, you got to see the
essentially.
credit. Yeah.
And it depends on your market, but yeah, if it's guard gated, if it's north of $1 million in Las Vegas, you need to kind of be prepared to show you are qualified before you get in the door. But I will assume you are, so I'll meet with you. We can have a cup of coffee and talk about the process. And yeah, if you're saying, "Oh, I'm not willing to do that," well, then I know you're not quite ready. Because if you were serious, you'd be willing to get pre-approved to see a higher end home.
Right.
And if it were your higher end home, would you just want anybody off the internet walking through it?
Yeah, because then you're just wasting everybody's time, including your own.
Yeah. But first one's free.
Makes sense. I like it.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite things about being a real estate agent?
It's definitely, I love the action, and I do love I don't want to say the set your own schedule thing, but I like that I get to pick and choose what I do every day. I mean,
Flexibility.
yeah, it's a topic, and I'm trying to think how to put it best into words, and we're kind of revisiting it, that it is flexible and it isn't, because I think the agent needs to be flexible. So, I can make a plan to go see a movie, and I could buy the tickets, and then I can get a lead that I want to go show a house to, and I have to decide, am I going to the movie or not? And some days I am, and some days I'm not. It depends.
How many times has that scenario happened? You're like, okay, I'm not going to the movie, and then like they cancel the last second.
Yeah, it happens once in a while,
Yeah.
definitely, and that's the worst. And when you're new, I think you have to take those punches a few times. When you're more experienced, you you have more confidence and control, where you can say, I'm unavailable. I've learned a big thing to all you agents out there watching this is just say that you're in an appointment or you have an appointment. It's okay if that appointment is a movie date with your spouse. That's an appointment.
Right. You don't have to get into detail about it. Yeah.
You don't say I'm going to the movies. That's how you get fired, because they don't care about me. But if you say I'm going to an appointment, they think that you're at a listing appointment or a buyer appointment.
Technically true, by the way. It is an appointment.
It is an appointment.
Yeah.
My appointments with myself are huge, and with my wife are huge, and I honor those. So I've learned to just kind of choose my words carefully and reschedule people accordingly.
Okay. Anything else that you like really love about what you do?
I do love people. Like I love meeting, you're a client of mine. That's how we first met.
Indeed.
So everyone has a story. I'm a storyteller. I love a good story. So I love people's backgrounds. I love to know their motivation and why they're moving somewhere, because home is truly a foundation of everyone's life. You know,
Yeah.
you need a good home in order to pursue your dreams. And I just like to think that I help people create a good foundation. I love that part of it. It's very fulfilling.
And it's like, I imagine, especially for first time buyers, there's that moment where you're like, at the end of the transaction, you're like, here's the keys,
Yeah.
like, here's your new home.
First time home buyers are my favorite. It's
Yeah.
the best feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super rewarding.
It's rewarding. And you could tell, and they're nervous. Obviously it's their first time. And for me, it's, you know, it's not. So I just love to tell them, look, I know this is your first time, but it's not my first time. You can lean on me, and to see that like relief on their face is the best feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me feel like a superhero. I'm doing something special.
Yeah, really. How incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the biggest part of some people's lives. That's such a
Yeah.
big milestone, especially here in the US, where it's like, that's
Yep.
the American dream, buying a home.
And it takes years of saving and
Yeah.
treating your credit correctly, and
Yeah.
you know, like sticking through a job, and it's a grind. Yeah, you're right. It's a big goal that people
Right.
achieve.
And I'm sure they've looked at a number of homes up to that point.
Yeah.
Or it's like maybe just that one that they've really been after.
Yep.
So when it finally comes, it's like, what an incredible moment.
Yeah, I just met with a brand new first time home buyer. First time I met them at a house, and we toured the house, and it did check a lot of their boxes, and I can tell they were kind of like, now what? And I go, guys, just, you don't have to buy the first house you see. And they were like, oh, okay. This is the first house we've actually been in. We've only looked online, but we've been looking online for years, and this is the first house
Wow.
we've actually been in. And I go, oh, it's such an honor. Like, just, but we definitely need to go see at least 5 more.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, thank God you said that. Like, I could tell they
were excited.
They were excited.
Yeah.
But they were like, we didn't want to be too excited. And it was really kind of just like, again, that relief on their face was a beautiful thing to see, that, you know, I felt like they felt taken care of.
That's why it's important to pick. I mean, because as an agent, you're literally representing these people. You're steering them throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
And because this is unknown for a lot of people, especially first-time buyers, even second or third-time buyers.
Yep.
There's a lot they may not know about the process, about the area, about the type of transaction they're getting into.
Yep.
So it's really important to pick the agent that is going to suit you and is going to be knowledgeable to just really guide you through that whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's up to 18 different people involved in a real estate transaction, and the agent's number one job is to facilitate all those relationships, but keeping the client's interest in mind. So yeah, as a second or third time home buyer, exactly, you still may not have experienced the full gamut of a transaction, and every transaction is different. I mean, I've done over 100 of them, and I still experience something new every
Right.
time.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe like a little legal hiccup here or like something there.
a title issue, exactly.
Yeah.
There's always, I couldn't even tell you. Once you think you've seen it all, something new comes up.
One thing that was interesting to learn about when I was getting my license was easements, learning about easements. Have you ever seen that come up in real life?
Yeah, except here in Las Vegas, because the city is so master planned, we're lucky that there's very rarely anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
We have easements, but they're typically just for utilities. HOAs are allowed, you know, to on
Right.
your property with certain notice and things like that. That's in more rural areas and things, it comes more into play. Open ranges, you know, things like that. But in the city of Las Vegas, I haven't experienced anything out of the ordinary with easements.
There's been some crazy legal cases where it's like this person's driveway had to go through a certain property
Yeah.
or whatever, or maybe it was just being used that way for years and then eventually went to court and it's like, well, now this is someone else's use of your land, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And it gets enshrined in law. So
Yeah, it's interesting.
real estate has some weird, tricky like things that happen with law.
Definitely.
So those are some of your favorite things.
Yeah.
How about your least favorite things?
At least favorite things is having to make those hard decisions with serving clients versus serving yourself, and finding a true work-life balance. You know, I'll be at dinner with my wife and a client calls, or maybe it's a new lead, and maybe it's an ad I paid for, and a phone rings and you have to decide, am I answering it or not?
You're in the middle of like a very intimate moment
Yep.
of conversation. It's like, shit, I kind of have to get this.
Yeah. But do you? And that is the psychological debate. And if you are in a relationship, it's something you need to discuss with your partner, like up front, what the rules of the game are.
Very important.
You know, I'm lucky. I'm very happily married. I have a great partner. She's supportive. She gets it. She knows that phone call pays for the dinner.
True.
But there's a limit though. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you need to spend time with each other with the phone off. That's the hardest part, is finding that balance. I mean, I'm on my 13th year, and it's starting to finally like work itself out. So I've spent a lot of energy focused on balancing out my life the past couple of years. It's a double-edged sword.
And that's a process that's always changing for you.
Yeah. And I started a team to kind of help alleviate that and to alleviate the pressure of I can still do a deal, make some money without having to commit hours and hours to this person. It's win-win. I can give it to an agent who would gladly commit the time, and they get paid, I get paid, and the customer gets served.
It's a better fit for everyone.
It's win-win for sure.
Because sometimes I know a lot of people, they drop agents left and right, or they're not loyal or whatever, but they also don't understand that agents can fire their clients.
Sure.
If it's not a good fit, right?
Yep, I've done that. Absolutely. I mean, you learn, you start to ask questions, and motivation is key. Some people are definitely tire kickers and waste time, and they want to offer 40% below market value
what a
on
joke.
a house. Yeah, it's not worth it. Or a seller wants to ask 40% over market value, and you have to learn to say, I'm not your agent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
'Cause time is very valuable. I mean, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So if you want to spend 6 months in a relationship with a person who's unrealistic, not treating you kind, and
That extends beyond real estate too, I think.
yeah, it does. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a relationship business for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. How much are you willing to tolerate of people? And that's true. It's beyond real estate, but I have, certain clients I love that I hang out with, and certain clients that I cannot wait for the deal to be over. Certain clients that I end the relationship with.
So I imagine, especially as a new agent, it's really hard to like tell these people no, or like set that boundary.
Exactly.
So is there any advice you would give to people in that position?
Yeah, have confidence that you're the professional, and it does come with time and training. But know your market. I highly recommend every new agent join a team. And I know a lot of people are like, oh well, I have to give up half my money or give up a percentage of my money. But giving up half of something is so much better than all of nothing. And to have a team, not only a leader that you can lean on for like statistics purpose, so you can go in saying, our team sells X even though you haven't sold anything, but also just how to prepare for a listing presentation where you are confident going in that you are the one being hired. I tell people, pretend you're a doctor and they're the patient. Okay, you never tell the doctor how to treat you, and it's a conversation. Of course, you have a right to tell the doctor how you'd like to be treated, but you listen to their expertise very seriously. So be the doctor, be the expert, tell them the reality of the market, and you have to say to yourself, if they won't listen now on day one, are they going to listen on this 6-month or 90-day relationship?
Right.
Do I want 90 more days of this? Yeah.
So there's definitely probably times where I think you mentioned this, is like, thank God this thing's over with. Like, this client's out of my life.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've done it enough where I don't enter those relationships anymore. I see the red flags early. And when you're young and you're new, you want the business so badly, but you also just need to learn. I mean, it's growing pains. Like I say, go for it. If you're uncertain, go for it. You might waste your time and money. You might not, but you're going to learn something either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, what kind of person would you recommend to get into real estate?
Definitely a self-starter, somebody social. You need to be able to talk to people. I mentioned 18 people involved in a transaction, and also just prospecting, cold calling, open houses. You need to be able to talk to strangers. Introverts, I feel like, don't do as well as a salesperson. Doesn't mean you can't be in real estate, but maybe more of a transaction coordinator, admin role, because it's a social job, and there's a phrase: your network determines your net worth. So the more people the more successful you're going to be. I feel like self-starter, social butterflies, those are the best people for the business.
And just not afraid to tackle on like all the different aspects, all the new things. Yeah. Because you got to try a lot of things before something sticks for you, right?
Yeah. I find anybody who's done like competitive sports, meaning they're not afraid to fail and push the limits of their body and their mind, because it is a grueling industry. It can be exhausting, and you need to be willing to fail, because you will fail over and over and over. and that's the person I am, and I try to teach that. You can't really teach that, to be honest, that kind of audacity to just fall and pick up over and over again. And if that's you, you'll succeed in this business.
Yeah, because it is hyper competitive, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of mistakes, I heard a story one time. This agent, you check boxes on the form of like what the home has, all the features of the home, and she had checked AC. Turns out there was no AC in this home, and it closed and everything. And the buyers went in and they were like, "Where's the AC? Like, where's the thermostat?" You know.
Okay.
Maybe it was. I can't remember what it was. Some appliance. I want to
That
say
wasn't
it's
in
AC.
Las Vegas.
No, it was in California. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is in California.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everyone has AC here. Yeah, you're right.
Everyone
No, this
has
is
AC.
Southern California,
Yeah.
and a lot of homes don't have AC.
Yeah.
So basically, she had to spend her whole commission to put AC in this place.
Okay.
So things like that, and she was a newer agent, so it's like she got excited to close, and all of a sudden it was like, actually, no.
She represented the buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. So was there, home inspection for one should have happened.
Or maybe it was the seller. I don't
The
remember.
listing
Yeah.
agent is the one at fault there by checking the box. So, and the seller would be liable for that in that case. We fill out what's called a seller's real property disclosure form.
Yeah.
And if it says, no, there's no problem with my AC, well, that implies there is an AC. So you therefore lied on that form, which is against the law in Nevada.
Right.
And therefore you're liable to deliver a functioning air conditioner. So that would have fallen on the seller and not the seller,
Yeah.
not the agent.
I'm pretty sure she was representing the seller.
Yeah. And we'll see. I don't know California law, but in Nevada, that would be the seller. I have my seller fill out that form because I don't know if their AC exists or works or not.
Yeah. It was a good lesson, I'm sure, to learn.
Yeah, and
be
that's-
careful what box you check.
And she didn't have obviously a coach or somebody overseeing this. And that's, this is big money we're talking
Yeah.
about, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not to be treated lightly. It's to be treated seriously, and people get excited about commissions.
Yeah.
But you need to focus on the process. And if you do that well, the commissions come.
And I think something that people should be aware of that are not professionals in the industry is that
Yeah.
there are a lot of laws that protect consumers on both sides of
yeah.
the transaction. Like, you do have agents that have just the dollar signs in mind, or maybe they just, they're not looking out for your best interests sometimes. But for the most part, there's just a lot of protections in place. There's a lot of case law in place that really protect you in the process, right?
Yeah, and as it should be. I'm a consumer too. The laws definitely favor the consumer, and they ought to, because there's a lot of money at risk, and to have an unprofessional person involved in that, if they do something devious, they should be penalized, and the penalties are severe.
Yeah.
For making mistakes. I mean, you can be fined 6 figures and have your license revoked pretty easily.
Damn, 6 figures.
Yeah.
Wow. There goes your home, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's serious.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we're not lawyers, we're not accountants, we're not appraisers, we're not inspectors, but we're supposed to know all
A
the
little
things.
bit of all of that, yeah.
But carefully advise people to talk to the inspector, talk to the appraiser.
Yeah.
You give advice, but then you have to say, but here's a qualified source.
Right. Or you word things like, according to my knowledge.
Yes.
This
My
is the way
clients have
yeah.
in the past, or I've experienced in the past. Big in Nevada's a no state income tax state, so a lot of people want to claim residency here. Well, that's between you and the IRS.
Yeah.
And I
I'm
can
not
tell
getting
you,
involved there.
right? I'm not an accountant, but there are certain rules that you need to follow in order to be a resident of a state. So
Yeah.
while I know them and I will say them to my clients, here's what I have seen and what I know. Talk to your CPA.
Right. That's the shield for you.
Because if you don't say
Yeah.
that and you're wrong and they end up owing California tax,
Well, you said.
and guess
Yeah.
who's going to court or mediation? So yeah, CYA, cover your ass.
That's right. Those are 3 of the most important letters in any industry.
In real estate especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fine line because you want to help people and you want to be the knowledge broker and tell them everything you know, but you can't step out of school.
Do you have any stories you can share about CYA that taught you a hard lesson, or?
No, I've been honestly lucky. I've been I don't want to say it's lucky. I mean, I'm diligent in doing what I just explained. I don't talk out of school.
Yeah.
I never overpromise. I've had one disciplinary action against me that was immediately thrown out. The buyer was just a little, he wanted out of a deal too late and tried to say that me and the other agent were coercing him into closing. But he had just changed his mind at the last minute.
But it was signed.
Past contingencies, and he lost his earnest money deposit. And I was able to prove that because, I document everything. And I just had to respond to that complaint, and it was thankfully immediately thrown out. But that was the only time I ever had any sort of trouble. But, when you do enough business, you're going to eventually have somebody who's a little loony, perhaps.
Yeah.
We do deal with the general population.
Tell me about some of these loons.
I mean, that's the best story I got, and out of respect to privacy for people.
Sure,
I
no
won't
names.
Really, mention, but this gentleman was. All right, this is a loony story.
Here we go.
I'll tell you. I won't name any names.
No, please don't.
So he it was he and his dog and no family. He was estranged from his family. Had told me some of these stories. His kids don't talk to him. Nobody talks to him. He's divorced. Which,
I wonder why.
red flag number one, right?
Yeah.
So new agent was like, okay. He's like, come over to my place. I want you to see my current place he was renting. Okay. I had no process back then. That would never happen.
Just
today.
say yes. Yeah.
I'd meet him in the office. I'd meet him at a neutral coffee shop. But I'm like, all right, I go over. So nice guy, nice place. He's got his it was a German Shepherd, and he's like,
You already doxed him. No,
yeah. There's a lot of German Shepherds out there.
Yeah,
I won't
sure.
say what neighborhood.
Okay.
So I show him a house or two. He has me over again, and he's like, so I want to ask you a favor. You seem like a nice stand-up guy. When my dog will probably die before me. I'm going to put his ashes in an urn on my mantle.
Okay.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
He goes, but I have a favor. When I die, I'm also going to get cremated. And I want you to be my legal proxy where you can pick up my ashes for me. And granted,
No way, dude.
just met this guy to be
No
his
way.
real estate agent. And I'm so desperate for a sale. I'm like, okay.
No way.
I'm kind of just nodding in my head. I'm like, I'm never going to do that, but I'm just going to say yes, until this deal's over, and I'm going to run far, far away.
But that's a verbal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, between me and a dead guy.
Yeah, true. Right.
So,
his word against yours, right?
It gets worse. So he goes, I'd like you to pick up my ashes, come back to the house and mix them with my dog's ashes and then bury them somewhere. And I was like, okay. And
No
exactly.
way.
Okay is an ambiguous word.
Yeah.
And that was the guy who ended up, trying to file a complaint against me just to show where his mentality was.
So there were red flags pretty much immediately with this guy.
Yeah, 100%. And ironically, a couple years later, he called me, and left me a voicemail. He's like, hey, I know, we got off on the wrong foot or whatever. And I'd like you to represent me. I want to buy a house again. And I deleted the voicemail.
Yeah, good move. Yeah, jeez.
That's
dude.
the craziest thing that's happened to me.
Well, like you said, general public, you're going to get a spectrum of people, right?
Yeah.
Man.
Yep. Poor guy.
Poor guy, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what advice would you give to people? Let's start with this. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about getting in? What would you say to either encourage or discourage or have them consider certain things?
Yeah. Have in the beginning a long runway to make money. So be of the mindset that you're going to be going to school and getting educated for 6 months to a year before you perhaps make any money. Go find yourself a good mentor, a coach, a team. Invest in coaching and education more than you invest in advertising or software. There's a lot of people out there that'll gladly take your money with some flashy new thing to get you leads. But if you have no idea what to do with those leads, it doesn't matter. So learn the business, learn how to talk to people first, get a mentor, 100%. Pay your dues early.
Yeah, you got to save up. You got to have money saved up for
Yep.
a year, right? I've heard that too.
Yeah. Or have a part-time job. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Do two things at once, and eventually you'll burn the boat, as we like to say, and you'll quit that job. But don't do that until you have a pipeline, you have a funnel full, and you feel comfortable doing so.
Is there any type of person that you would just say, don't even bother with real estate?
I mean, if you are so shy, you can't say, hello to the clerk at the grocery store. You're gonna have to work on that first before you get into the business.
Or that could be the catalyst, the process that kind of takes you through that.
Yeah, exactly. But you could be willing to change.
And plus, you got to invest up front with all the schooling and
Yep.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it takes money to be a real estate agent,
Yeah.
both upfront and annually. But beyond that, I mean, yeah, if you're committed to anything, you should be willing to commit a few $1,000s, whether it's real estate or whatever you choose to do. You need to be willing to commit time and money to it, but commit to yourself to educate yourself and to strengthen your weaknesses.
I mean, we've kind of gone over some of this throughout the conversation, but what are some tips that you would give the general public, let's say, for finding the right agent?
That's a good question. Definitely, you want to interview multiple agents. I have no problem going against any other agent because
Put my man against anyone.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm honest, and I have a track record. Even if I were brand new, I should be able to convince somebody why I would work for them. General public, you want somebody with experience, or if they don't have experience, somebody who has experience behind them, meaning a good brokerage or a good team. Yeah. You want somebody, a good question to ask is about their process. And if they don't have one, run away. This is a business. It's a formula. It's a process that needs to be followed in order to protect your money and your interests. So if this agent doesn't have a process, that's a red flag. That means they're a little willy-nilly. And then just honestly look them in the eye and have a conversation and trust your gut about that person. That's the number one thing. Your gut's never wrong.
Amen. Yeah. Trust your instinct.
Yeah. Meet them in person.
In person. Yep. Of course.
Okay. I just had a client come in from out of state 2 days ago. Was interviewing 3 agents to be their buyer's agent, which not a lot of people do. People think, oh, I'll interview 3 agents for a listing, but not necessarily for a buyer. They'll just kind of take whoever they met online or whatever. But he picked 3 people via online research. I was one of them, and we met in person. We had coffee, and we interviewed each other, frankly.
Yeah.
And it was an hour-long conversation, and it went really great, and I got hired. But I respected his process. He had a whole sheet of questions printed out, which, that's an extreme, but definitely have a few questions and meet the agent in person.
He did his homework.
He really did.
Yeah.
Which, again, I like.
Yeah, of course, because you've done yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. I like this guy. He's serious.
Yeah. He's not
Right?
going to waste my time. Yeah. Okay.
He doesn't want his time wasted.
We're going to go back to stories one last time. Do you have any really heartwarming stories?
Heartwarming stories.
Something you're really proud of that you've done for someone?
There are a few. I'm trying to filter through. Perhaps, this one's actually in progress. It's the newest story. It's I don't even have the listing yet.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press. Friend of mine, man.
Here we go.
Here we go. So, friend of mine just went through a second bout of cancer. He's a licensed real estate agent. He has a friend whose father passed away. Her mother's extremely ill, physically, mentally. She's dealing with a recent death, an unwell mother, a cluttered up house. Calls her friend who has cancer. Calls me and says, I need you to go in and sell this house. Yeah. I have no idea what I'm walking into. I sit down, the house is, very cluttered, and they're going through, a deceased parent's belongings. It's very heavy in the house.
Of course. And raw
Yeah. And fresh. So to go in there, this is the people side of the business. Like, you can't go in there, slick back hair in a suit, smiling, you're almost walking into a wake, and these poor kids, I call them kids, they're adults obviously, but the kids are just figuring out what to do, and their mind is on family and grieving and what may or may not happen. And to be able to sit down there and fill in the shoes for my friend who's going through something similar and just look him in the eye and just say, you can stop worrying about this. I am going to get you every dollar possible out of this property. I'm going to help you get it cleaned out, ready for sale. It'll look perfect. You don't even have to think about it anymore. Was the best feeling. And it brought kind of tears to my eyes as she started to break down and cry when I told her that.
Huge relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I haven't even signed a listing agreement with him because I don't need to. Yeah. It was just like, I got you, and shake hands, hug, and it's going to be, listed soon. And that was just one of those things. It's like, I got their back. It makes you feel like a superhero, like you're doing something special for somebody, taking a huge potato off the plate.
Incredible.
Yeah.
The relationships, the people. That's what makes it. You really got to be in it for the people and the relationships.
That's
a little
a good
bit the
feeling.
money, but mostly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that comes, but I mean, it's when you go forward with like people first mentality, the money just comes.
It takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we direct people if they have any like questions about the process or how to navigate all this? Can we direct them to you? Do you want?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
How does someone get a hold of you?
Social media at Michael Coxen. My website is thestandard.realestate. You can find me on there. Also michaelcoxen.com. And yeah, feel free to reach out, messages. Happy to help coach a new agent. I am hiring if you're a Las Vegas agent on my team. So yeah, just feel free to reach out.
Right on. Michael, thank you for your time, brother. This has been awesome. Really appreciate it.
My man, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.